get started. Welcome everyone once again, in person and online, to my career story. Today we are featuring Marisa Hattab, who is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Douglas County. I'm really excited to hear what that means on like a county level. And so I'm so glad that she's here so that I can learn more, and hopefully all of you can learn more as well. So I'm going to give a brief intro on Marisa and then we'll get into it. Marisa Hattab is a passionate advocate for mentorship, survivorship, and DEI. She demonstrates her fierce advocacy by sitting on different boards that center women, youth, and servant leadership, two of which are Survivors Rising and Smile Bags. She works to open doors and opportunities to help people, both young and old, to thrive and succeed. Marisa believes that people deserve to live their best lives and should have access to opportunities to succeed. Everyone, Marisa Hattab.
I appreciate the echo in here. It sounded like there was a huge crowd. It felt really good. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be in front of you to share my story and on the side of you because of this beam. We'll make it work. I was sharing a little bit ago that kind of my facilitation approach is like conversational, and I don't like to just stand before people and just talk at them. That's not my style. You'll hear a little bit about me and how that impacts even my facilitation approach and what I'm doing now. And it's a really crazy story. So it'll be a portion of storytelling and maybe like interactive where I hear from you. If there's something that I'm saying that you want clarification on, or there's a question that sparked, like, as you can see, it's pretty intimate, like interrupt me, I'm okay with that. And so, yeah, so I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna share context around, yes, my name is Marisa Hattab now, but we're gonna go back in history to when my name was Marisa Montgomery, when I was a young girl. And I even had the audacity to give you a snapshot into the adorable little Marisa, okay? You can even see at the bottom here, it's like Marisa Montgomery. You can see, so it's legit. My name was Marisa Montgomery. And so I also was going to play an intro song because I'm extra like that, but I forgot my Bluetooth speaker. And I was going to play This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. I don't know if you've seen it. That song really does something to me. That's why I titled it This Is Me. And then I had the nerve to forget the Bluetooth. It was going to be like my introduction music, you know, when I go around and get hands, and I had the nerve to forget it. But anyway, this is me. This is my story. That song really does resonate with me as far as some of the internal obstacles I've had to overcome to be able to step into some of the opportunities and successes I've been able to have until this point, which is why I wanted to share it. But it's okay. Maybe I'll pull up the lyrics or something. I don't know, how do you want me to go about going from slide to slide? I don't mind. Do I just click from here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't mind at all. Okay, so we're gonna go back in time. Again, I pulled out a classic. It's the adorable Marisa. Now, would you believe me if I told you, you can see it a little bit, but around my perimeter, I had blonde hair. During the summer, it would be like blonde. People were really confused about what's going on with Marisa, like trying to figure out what my ethnicity was. My mother is a brown-skinned Black woman, so people even would question if she was like my nanny. Really ignorant comments, truthfully. But anyways, I wanted to bring a little oldie and share a little bit about the foundation, because the foundation of my life, where I was raised, really does impact what I do now as the Chief Diversity Officer for Douglas County. And so, so let's go back. So I'm not originally from Omaha. I am originally from a small town in Ohio called Troy, Ohio. And it was a predominantly white town. So I was used to being the only Black person in my classes, on basketball teams, sleepovers. I was the Black friend. If someone was like, I'm not a racist, I have a Black friend. I was the Black friend, y'all. You know, that's what my upbringing was like. And it really did. I know I use humor in my facilitation approach, but honestly, it really did impact my self-perception, my self-worth, and my lens on life. And so I remember just a few months ago, I went to an event that the women's, what is it called? WCA. I remember the Women's Center for Advancement. Yes, thank you. They had an event where they invited Teron Burke, who is the founder of Me Too movement. They had her here and she was sharing her story. And there was a quote that she used where she said, "I didn't choose the work chose me." And at this event, I had my mother and my daughter, who's 12, with me. And afterwards, we're in the car just talking about how amazing the event was. And my mother looks at me and she goes, Marissa, when she said that quote that she didn't choose the work chose her, she's like, I feel like that relates to you. And I'm like, really, Mom? I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And she's like, Marissa, since the time you were a young girl, you've always been keenly aware of like societal inequities. You've been aware of the need for diversity of identities and culture and race and ethnicity. And I spoke of those things. She's just like, it's just been your lens. And so, although this is the first role that I do that's explicitly DEI related, as you hear about my career path, it's been kind of the common thread that's linked all of my stories together. And so the foundation where I was raised, the environment in which I was incubated in, really, really impacted where I am today. And although there were a lot of things that were difficult about being the only, there were a lot of amazing things as well about my community. Like I have stories about riding a bicycle to Penny's candy store, which literally was a penny candy store. So if I had $1, I felt rich because I could go to the Penny's candy store and get 100 pieces of candy. So I have very fond memories of my community. It was safe, it was family oriented, it was family and community based. Like still to this day, if I go back to Troy, Ohio, I'm going to run into someone at Walmart. So I can't live crazy because I know I'm going to run into someone. But anyways, that's just a little bit about the foundation of my life. And just a little snapshot, I want to share about Mr. Carnum, Mr. K. He was my second grade teacher, and it was a really kind of sticky time in my life. My parents had recently divorced, so we had to move and go to a new school. And Mr. K was my second grade teacher, and he was amazing. He integrated music and like plays and theater into his teaching approaches. He also built community. So he had this barber chair in his room that you could sit in on your birthday that we all really couldn't wait for. And as he would pump it up to get it higher, it would make like fart noises. And we would all just belly laugh at Mr. Carnum. And he just made fun, like he made education fun. And it was in second grade that I knew I was like, I'm going to be a second grade teacher, not just a teacher. I'm going to be a second grade teacher. And throughout elementary, I would go back, I'd read to his class when I was in sixth grade. My senior year in high school, I did this integrated, like half of my time would be in my regular high school and the other half would be a vocational school where I learned how to be a teacher. And I was able to do a 6-week internship with Mr. Carnum. So like, I always would go back to him because he was such a phenomenal teacher. And also, I shared with you, it's a small town. And so I had very limited access to anything other than just traditional jobs, like teaching, like, well, we didn't even have I wasn't aware of nonprofits, but it was just very traditional. And from kindergarten through 12th grade, I only had one person of color that was a teacher. So I also was, I'm going to be that person because I know how important it is. And so I knew I'm going to be a teacher. And so as I shared my sixth grade year, I went back, my senior year, I went back, and then life happened. And so that's a little bit of my foundation. But life happened. I ended up going to a seminary internship for a year after I graduated in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And during the time, because I was so young and impressionable, I didn't realize how spiritually abusive it was, but it was. It was like really like a cult. But I didn't know it because I was in this bubble. And so I share that briefly because that impacted my decisions tied to my career because I didn't go to college. I went to the seminary internship. So when I came back from the seminary internship, I had like a partial scholarship to a local community college and went there. And during that time, I ended up getting pregnant and getting married at the ripe age of 20, okay? So I bring up that time and that internship to then getting married because my marriage ended up being very abusive. So when I look back over my life and I tried to, after I left my ex-husband, I was trying to figure out, how did I get here? I eventually understood that internship and what I was taught about being a wife and taught about religion and God and all of these things significantly impacted how I wound up with who I was, plus my childhood. And there was just a lot, right? But for me, if we're going to talk about my career story, we've got to talk about my foundation, the good, bad, and ugly, because all of those things really impacted the next steps in my life. So after I left my ex-husband, I was like, what am I going to do? I felt so defeated. I felt so lost. And I had a friend that was like, Marissa, why can't you go back to college? And I'm like, I'm gonna have a daughter now, a baby. I have no money. I have nothing, And she's like, you can rebuild your life. And so I did. I went back to college, and I went to a very diverse, very large university in Ohio, but the College of Education was very small, and the College of Education was not diverse at all. I think I may have had one person, again, thinking about my upbringing, maybe one professor that was a professor of color from all 4 years. And so, which is crazy when I really say it out loud, because the university really was diverse. But anywho, back to the topic. So I got my degree. I got my degree in education. I met my now husband, who was in the Air Force. And we got married 3 weeks after I graduated. And guess what? The second day of our honeymoon, we got orders because he was in the Air Force. We got orders to Quantico, Virginia, okay? Which I was excited about. It's like Washington, D.C. My dad lived there at the time. And then they had the nerve to cancel the daggone orders and give me Bellevue, Nebraska, y'all. Bellevue, Nebraska, Virginia and DC to Nebraska. I was truly confused. I was scared. I was really afraid. I'm like, who is going to be able to do my hair? And I forgot to do the rediscovery. So now we're in the part of my career path in the rediscovery, right? Like picking up the pieces of my life, going back to school, meeting my husband. So I'm rediscovering myself, right? I'm healing, I'm doing all these things. And so long story short, we wind up in Bellevue. And within 6 months of graduating college and getting married, and I mean, it was like this. And so the sucky thing about getting those orders, I was not able to solidify my teaching certificate in Ohio. And so when I moved here, it was up to the state. It was up to the state of Nebraska on whether or not I could get my teaching certificate. So for over 2.5 years, I was going back and forth with the state universities at Kearney, St. Mary's, UNO, UNL. I mean, I was trying all these like alternative approaches to figure out how can I get my teaching certificate. I even went as far as researching other states, their alternative programs that were more compatible with Nebraska standards than Ohio's. So then I was going through a program in Indianapolis, y'all, to try to get my teaching certificate in Indiana so that then Nebraska would accept me here. Nebraska's ridiculous, ridiculous. Yes, I'm saying they're really ridiculous. And right now they're probably kicking themselves in the butt, praying that more teachers would come because they make it really hard. And so long story short, I was able to teach right down the street at the Omaha Street School. Have any of you heard of the Omaha Street School before? So it's right down the street off of Bedford. It's on now it's called Better Together campus, where Abide, it's a nonprofit exists. It used to be the Omaha School for the Blind, but it's literally probably half of a mile from here. And I taught for just shy of 2 years there. And with it being an alternative high school, they were able to allow me to teach because I was in the process of getting my certificate. But once the state of Nebraska came back and told me, you cannot teach, you're going to need a new degree, that's when I decided I'm leaving the teaching profession. I'm not going to go back to school for a degree that I already have and I'm still paying student loans for. I'm not doing it. And when I tell you, I was really like brokenhearted. Because I'm like, what am I gonna do? I've known since I was in second grade that I wanted to be a teacher, although I was teaching high school. That detail is not important, but I loved teaching. I knew I only wanted to teach 5 years. The trajectory of my life was I was going to teach 5 years. I was then going to be a principal for 10 years, and then ultimately a superintendent, because I knew that I wanted to be able to impact systemic change. And I wanted to be able to address inequities and make processes, entire systems effective. But I wanted to have the perspective of a teacher. I wanted to have the perspective of a principal so that when I was a superintendent, I would be able to see things from different layers and different parts of the work. So now I'm not going to be able to teach. I wrestled with that for a while. And then it was like kind of like a grieving process because I had to pick up the pieces of my life. I had to grind as a single mother for 4.5 years, working almost full time, going to school full time. I thought about the sacrifices, the grind, the work ethic, and the struggle. And now I can't teach. I thought it was for nothing. And then I had a friend send me a job opportunity for a nonprofit. And I'm like, I don't even know what the heck a nonprofit is. Like, truly, I didn't. And it was for a mentoring program, which I love mentoring. That was just a part of like how I did life. You know, people mentor me. I asked people to mentor me. I mentored others. So I'm like, okay, I think I may be able to do it. And then that's when I transitioned into having to take some calculated risks. I had to really think, okay, all right, there's a no to teaching, which means there's a no possibly to the entire plan I had. And I had to start thinking differently about myself and the skills that I had. And I had to begin taking calculated risks. So that's when I started to think, okay, I'm a teacher. What about teaching can translate into a mentoring program? And I don't even know much about a nonprofit and how it operates, but I went for it. I applied for the position, I got the job, and I ended up leaving mid-year. I left my students mid-year. I started in January at this mentoring program. And at first it was really overwhelming because I didn't know anything about the system. Okay, we were a very small team, 5 people. An executive director. I don't know what an executive director is. Per second, I don't even know what her title is, let alone what second means. Now, mind you, this is not a ginormous nonprofit. It's 5 people. And I'm over here not knowing what anyone's doing. I don't understand how my position impacts the overall organization. And I'm overwhelmed and grieving, no longer teaching and missing my students. And so, I started to lean in and I started to ask questions and I got plugged into Mentor Nebraska is what it's called. And it's a part of a national affiliate. And I started to travel and meet people from throughout the country and trying to understand how these other affiliates work and where I fit in. And I started to put together the pieces of how nonprofits operate. And I also was keenly aware of my thinking. And in order for us to like be able to take calculated risks, if our self-talk is garbage, which mine was, to be honest, it makes it really hard. So I'm curious, before I proceed with my story, how many of you are familiar with imposter syndrome? Have you heard of it? Okay. So when you think of imposter syndrome, what are some of the words that come to mind? Or what's your perception of what imposter syndrome is?
I don't belong in this role.
I don't belong in this role. Awesome. Anything else? Any other maybe thoughts or ideas around what it is? Second guessing. Absolutely. Anyone else? Yeah. Oh God. Maybe you should go talk to them because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And oh my goodness, what if they figure it out, right? Or to be honest, in the work that I do right now, it's an inaugural role, so no one's ever done it. And there's no other position like my role throughout the state of Nebraska as it relates to county government. So I think Nebraska has 93 counties. One has a DEI officer, so it's not like I could even call anyone. And so they're looking at me to be the daggone consultant, and I'm like, I don't even know what the heck county government is. Like, I hear, what is this? Let alone applying DEI to it. We'll get to that. But yeah, that second guessing part was huge for me. Was huge. And if I wasn't willing to like confront that and call it out for what it was, it could have been debilitating. And it could have stifled my growth. It could have stifled the trajectory of my success. And where I am now, because I'm a DEI officer. Does that sound like teaching to you? It's not, right? So I really do want to pause here because in order to be able to take some calculated risk, we also have to be and I'll go back to imposter syndrome, but I also started to critically analyze how I show up in space. And transferable skills are big. Before we start like talking about transferable skills though, I'm curious, like out of everyone in the room and the people who are online, how many of you saw yourself doing what you're doing today? What are you doing today? Can we just take a moment where I don't have to just hear myself talking? Like, can we share if you're open? Can you share with me when we go back to the foundation, right? The younger Marisa that was really cute, who had the nerve to have blonde peach fuzz, as we called it. Thought I would be a teacher. What about you? What's part of your story? Like, what did you see yourself doing when you were that younger youth or young person, or even in your 20s, when you were in college and graduating? What did you think you were going to be doing? And what are you doing now? And then we'll talk next about like the skills and how we transfer those things. So can we start with you?
Yeah.
And then just work our way around. And I don't want to forget about people online. I feel like I see some people typing things. So if anyone's paying attention to the chat box, if there's something that needs to be uplifted, please let me know.
So I feel like growing up, I was never really sure what I wanted to do. But I will say, so I went to college at UNO for communication studies. And the main reason why I chose that was because it is so broad.
Yeah.
This is a lot of fields, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because it's like, okay, well, how do you narrow that down?
Right.
And what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Kind of like psychology.
Yeah. Yeah.
A different, but like,
science.
right.
But throughout college and after I graduated with the degree, I was a bartender. And then I also DJ. And so I did that for quite a few years, but I knew that wasn't a forever, career path. And so, I eventually stumbled into the role of career readiness coordinator with Heart and Workforce Solutions, and wasn't anything that I imagined at all. It's my first, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 salary job. But it's been great because I get to meet a lot of people, introduce myself to others. I've always been pretty well at starting conversations, living along with folks. And I also get to help the community too. So not on a picture, but it works.
Yeah. And in a moment, I may put you even more on display. I want you to think about it because you just talked about 3 different career like paths, could be paths. And I want us to think about the transferable skills that connected the dots to where you are now. So that's important. Even critically analyzing it in such a way is important for all of us. So yeah, let's make our way around the room and then we'll talk about those things.
So I was growing up, I was in nurse.
Okay.
So I actually had a full ride scholarship to Iowa State. So my plan was always do 2 years there to really show out scholarship and then transfer to college there.
Okay.
Then I took a psychology class and I loved it.
Okay.
So I ended up switching majors and into psychology.
Wow.
I actually graduated from Iowa State. After that, I was trying to get a job, and graduated and like, yeah, I need a job. So I always think I wanted to live in Omaha.
Okay.
So just like 15 and I took on case management, child welfare. So I did that for almost 3 years. And then the company we worked for didn't get a contract, we were moving on to another agency. I didn't want to make that transition, so I went into other child welfare jobs, and then this came up, which now is a business services coordinator at Workforce Solutions. So very different, still people, and that aspect of it, but I never envisioned myself working in the workforce and learning all that. So it's still kind of like drinking out of the bubbles right now and learning everything
Absolutely.
over again. Definitely did not see myself being here today.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Okay. I'm looking at time. We're doing good with time. We still have 30 minutes. Sure, y'all half my life story in less than 30 minutes. Okay. And creating space to hear from you. Come on. All right. Let's hear from you. What did you think you were going to be? And what are you doing now? Mm.
That also compounded with the classes and aligned with my that wants to do a better contract. And so, working finding positions that are very technical as a route to develop and that's not on that consulting, but companies around the area that want to work with cultures that you can better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I'm like listening to all of us, like all of our paths are so different than what we envision. And I feel like we need to have these conversations with like college students more, because so many times I talk to a lot of college students and they beat themselves up. Like literally just this weekend, I was meeting with my cousin who's 21, my younger cousin. And I was telling him how proud I was of him. I really think he's remarkable. And he had a hard time receiving it. And he's like, well, I'm really behind, but I'm finding my way. I'm like, you are not behind, Shaden. Like you were on track. Our society to expect 18-year-olds to know what the heck they want to do with the rest of their lives is absurd to me. And I feel like people need to have freedom to grow and evolve. And so do we. And that's what I'm hearing, even in the four of us. Like, we had to give ourselves permission to explore ourselves and to explore other options. So thanks for sharing. Let's keep going around, if you don't mind. Yeah, okay. What position did you play? Okay, I was a center and a power forward sometimes, but I definitely didn't want to go to the W. I saw how hard college students college players had to play. That's for me. I don't want to play. I don't want to work that hard. But anyways, go ahead.
Really well. It seemed like it was easy, so I was a pre-pharmacy major, like my first semester.
And it seemed like it was easy. Okay. Okay. Right.
I also was kind of a unique student where, I had kids while I was in college, and I was like 7 years now in college.
Yeah.
I was working full time, I had lived in another country for a couple of years after high school. I was late. Eventually, graduated college, graduated at 29. I needed to go to law school.
Wow.
And so, but I had lots of experience working in government law and went through. So after law school, I immediately got into some other government work as well, and the opportunity to run a small agency within the rest of state government, also run some departments and stuff. And then now I'm working for solutions, other very good situations.
And you did that all in 3 years, because you're only 33 years now. I'm just like, he did it all in like 4. Right, I don't know, if that- but seriously. Right. Wow. Y'all, I'm like really blown away, like at all of our stories, like, and I know they're really brief, but I'm like, wow, like, talk about non-traditional paths. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. All right, let's keep going. Does anyone know how many folks are online by chance? Oh, okay, because I just don't want to overlook you. But yeah, let's hear. Okay. Mhm. Oh dear.
My, sort of really makes me goals, I just want to probably call it where it's at my life, stuff in the army, so. Because, I can be working there a couple years ago now, I graduated, even though I studied multimedia. I was how the strong history of the case, the teamwork, I've always been service oriented, so I love making people happy. And then when I moved home on COVID happened, the place I was working at closed for good. How am I going to find something that suits me, that's sustainable job, I'm not gonna, end all for good during COVID, so it's something that, is.
Job security.
Yes, thank you.
See, story relates to Nicole. She's finishing your statements. Come on now.
And the mix, like, we consider the industry and I hope this role more in the leadership aspect of it. I really enjoy it. I've never even heard of workforce development before, or American Job Center at all. So, but what am I actually doing every day? Who can I call to take on?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I feel like the next part that we're gonna do, we're all the perfect people to do. So, we have one more person that's in the room, and hopefully those who are online can hear us okay, because I know we are in a kind of a wide space. But we're gonna hear from one more person, and then any of you who are online, if you wish to kind of share a little bit of your story, we would love to hear from you as well. If you want to put it in the chat and kind of share what your original dream was that you would be growing up compared to what you're doing now, that's fine too. But I want you to know that you're not overlooked. We see you and we want to hear you too. But we're gonna hear from one more person in the space.
All right. I have ADHD, so it's a journey.
All right, let's take this journey. Should I sit down, get buckled up, or?
So, again, in college, that's.
What?
So, I will not, I will not. So, if you're not going to chemistry.
Right.
You can't do it. So, I retaking that chemistry class a couple times, no dice. But I did also follow up with sociology, anthropology, going into that a little bit because how people think is really fascinating to me. On social skills level. And also autistic, maybe that's why. How many people is in class? But I ended up focusing more on literature for all the papers that I have already. But I ended up I've done things like see, I did property management for a little while, so I had leasing agent, property manager for a couple different properties. Then I switched over to logistics for a cell phone tower climbing company. And then now I moved over into accounting assistant and social media coordinator.
Hey.
So finding those bridges for me.
Wow, I'm really blown away, y'all. Like, I'm saying wow genuinely, like y'all are blowing my mind.
I am on opening my own on the side business for business writing as well.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Using that degree.
Right, right. All of us are.
Right.
Okay, so has anyone responded in the chats?
So I thought I was always open for the accidents, and now I'm looking to be inclusion meetings on the city. The leadership is the same.
Hi, Sim. I think that's you. Anyways, I know. I'm like, for Sioux City, I got somebody there. I think it's Sim. I think she's here. Thank you for being here, if that is. Anyone else?
Yes, so. My dream job was a after taking several math and science courses, I realized that the non was studying to be the one. It was awful. After maybe help, I realized my passion is to serve the community. I seek to bring services and organizations to the responsibility to resources. With my community, I am really public health project for years doing just that.
Mic drop. Dang, thank you for sharing. Anyone else before we move forward? Even if you didn't type it, if you want to share, you can. If they have that ability, I don't know if they do. All right, I want to put Nicole on display for a moment, okay? If you're open to it. So everyone online, you're included in this. Everyone in the room, you're included in this. So Nicole shared that she was a bartender. Well, she went to college for communications, okay? So let's bring that in here. She then was a bartender and a DJ, which she still currently does on the side, right? So if you need a party instigator, look at Nicole. And then now, what's your title here? What's your role in Heartland? A career readiness coordinator. So I want us to think, I feel like literally, like this is dope because everyone in this space, and it seems like a lot of people on the computer were like, hey, what I thought I wanted to do, I'm not doing. I'm actually doing this. And so I think there's something to be said about that calculated risk part that I shared, a part of my story, like being calculated, meaning being very specific, not just doing things on a whim and impulse, but really being like strategic and thinking through, is this in alignment with my purpose? Is this in alignment with my joy? Is this in alignment with my skills? And if it is, then yes. And if it's not, then no. That's important. Joy is important, alignment with your skills, your purpose, all of those things are important, even for where we are now and wherever we're going in the future. I work for county government and it's full of a lot of old people. I'm just gonna say it, okay? It's full of a lot of people who've been there their entire careers, like literally from the time they got out of college to being 60 years old, no exaggeration. So a lot of them have a perception tied to millennials and younger that we are job hoppers. And how do we retain these job hoppers, right? That's something I hear. And so anyways, I don't think we're just job hoppers. I think that we are innovative, okay? And if we can center our joy, our purpose, and our skills, that's the kind of the compass. So anyways, I'll step off my soapbox. We'll put those little nuggets in our back pocket. And let's think about the skills that a DJ would have, a bartender, and a career readiness coordinator. So let's just throw out, what are some skills that we believe a DJ would need to possess to be great at their work? Good listener. I would say someone who has like discernment, where they can kind of fill the room and kind of, because you're like a party instigator. So you've got to be able to, for me, it's like, okay, I've got to have discernment to kind of feel what type of vibe is going to get them to open up. So I would say discernment. I wish, could we write on that board or no?
Yeah. Well,
Is
that's
there? Oh, I'll do that. So we said, what did you say? What was the first one you said? Good listener? All right, I'll just put listener, discernment. Anyone else want to throw anything out?
Event planning, coordinating, everything.
Okay, event coordination.
you have to know music and be.
Yeah. Ooh, come on now. Yeah, can we put that under discernment? Still, okay. Anyone else? Anyone online for all that works? Ooh, time management.
You have to be calm under pressure.
Ooh. Okay. Anyone else? Look at parts on them. Or like have just such a unique style, you know what I mean, where it might not look good to the common eye, it's like, oh, there you can pull it off. Anyways, look good. Anything else? So we have listener, folks. We've got discernment, being able to read the room, anticipate the needs of the crowd. Event coordination, know music, so knowing your craft. Market and promotion, time management, staying calm under pressure, organized and lifted while they're doing all those things. Is there anything else that we think a great DJ can do? I would say diverse. There's gotta be diverse in your music taste because there's different folks. So I'll put diversity. Is that cool? So there's for the DJ. She also said she was a bartender. So let's think about that. What are skills that a good bartender needs to have? And some of these probably are going to start connecting. So what are good skills that a bartender would need to have? Has anyone said anything in the chat? Okay. Okay. What do we think? Multitasking, excellent. Okay, anyone else? I'm sorry, what did you say?
Adaptability.
Adaptability.
Have the same knowledge of like drink next thing is
Agreed.
Social.
Now listen, y'all. How many of these relate to a good DJ? I just want to know. Multitasking, I mean. Adaptability, like I'm still seeing common threads, even though we didn't put that on there, but I'm sure we're like, oh yeah, DJ has some too. Oh yeah, adaptability, yep, DJ, social, yes. You can be an introvert, but you have to be able to still perform through the performance aspect. Okay. If you gotta perform, Kylie Edmond right there, okay? Y'all remember Kylie Edmond? Am I showing myself? They were hard. They were performing, okay? What else? Strong communication. Come on, that brings me in with the word there. I'm gonna go back to that first one. Listeners.
Partaking in silence, know you best.
True. They know when you've got your limits too. Anyone else? Yeah. So.
De-escalation.
How do I spell that? Don't read like that. De-escalate.
That's a big one.
I'm just gonna de-escalate.
Boundaries. Like my mind is not me.
Anything else?
Very diverse customers.
Yeah. So can I put I want to put a check mark next to the DJ that we think also relates to bartenders. So when we think of good bartenders, do they need to be a good listener? I think we have that on the list, right? What about discernment? We have that on the list. Event coordination,
They're not planning theirs, do they?
okay. That's same for DJ, right? Bartenders and DJ, because they're not planning it, but they're part of the event.
Mhm.
So they have to know what's happening, what part they're in. So I would say. Music,
Mhm.
yeah, that's how you're gonna get more than 10. Marketing and promotion,
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, okay, she said, oh yeah. Time management,
Yes. The whole thing.
calm under pressure. That's that escalation, right? Come on, y'all are listening. Do they have to be organized?
Yeah.
Heck, yeah. Do they, maybe? I don't really, they got to look good if they're not there. You don't trust what you drink. Okay? And then not direction. Look at that, like, you can look at that, you take a picture.
Yeah, I did take a
Okay,
picture.
good resume word, okay? So let's take one more. That's what I'm, okay, this is good, this is a good crash course for us. And finally, the career readiness coordinator. I'm just gonna put career for the amount of time we're already at 11:50. Let's think about what do we think a good career readiness coordinator would need to have. We might not know explicitly what a career coordinator does, readiness coordinator does, but assumptions here. Career readiness and workforce development. Let's think of those three. So what might a good career readiness coordinator have to do to be successful? And you can throw out words too.
Communicate.
Communicate.
Collaborating.
Collaborate? Is that what you said?
Mhm.
Okay.
The knowledge. You have to see the workplace, career pathways.
Ne-
Someone said planning and organization.
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just gonna put the word, well, no, that means not work. Well, yeah, organization. Yeah.
I don't know if like realistic would be the right word, but just knowing the how best to attain what a person would want to achieve without it being like too over the moon.
That's
So if they
good.
want something super, super high, how do we get there?
Excellent. Anything else? We have communicate, collaborate, knowledgeable, listener, planning, organizer, realistic, calculated. We could say discernment was in there too. To be able to read between the lines.
Adapt.
Adaptability.
Mhm.
Anyone online say anything?
Mhm.
Come on. Anything else?
I think to some extent, social, you gotta know what's out there, so you know what to direct.
Yeah, networking is a good one.
All right, let's go to bartenders list. Do you think that a career readiness coordinator has to multitask? Adaptability? Knowledge, we have that on here. Social. Do they have to perform? We don't have to check it, maybe not. Communication, we have that. The listener, we have that, yep. Discernment, and realistic calculations. De-escalation. Do people come in stressed out and you have to kind of counsel them? You have to have boundaries. Yes, yes, no, no.
Yeah.
I think even backwards would be like this. And then diversity. Look at all of these things, bartending, DJing. Of course, we can see some parallels between DJ and bartending because typically they go together, but they're different career paths. And then all the way to a career readiness coordinator. Doesn't it make sense now when you see it there on the board? That's what I had to do in my career path. This is what I had to do mentally. When I was looking through those job descriptions, how many of us have looked through a job description and went through and said, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that, don't know what that is, can't do that. That's what I would do, y'all. I was like, I didn't look at what I could do, I was just like, I don't know what that means, or I don't know. And in order for you to be able to do calculated risk, in order for you to be able to overcome our self-talk, the things that make us doubt ourselves, the things that make us take a step back, the things within myself that made me look through that list first and say what I couldn't do versus what I can do, versus what skills do I have that could help me learn that skill if I don't know what it is. This is what we all probably did, whether we were consciously aware of it, that really helped us to take the calculated risk in order to change a career, to try something new, to take the risk. And so I became adept at doing that. I was able to really center who I am, what my purpose is, what are some of those common threads, which is what helped to lead me into what I'm doing currently as Douglas County's DEI officer. And so just to give a little bit of a brief kind of outline as far as what I'm actually responsible for, each three of those words are different in their meaning. Here in Omaha, when you say diversity, equity, inclusion, a lot of people stop at diversity. A lot of people think of diversity in one of two ways, or both, black and white, not much in between, especially with how segregated Omaha is. And then also LGBTQ+. That's kind of the things that people instantly think of when they think of diversity. They don't think of conflict resolution or conflict management and how our culture impacts how we relate in conflict. They don't think of accessibility. Some people are beginning to, the seen and unseen abilities or disabilities that people have and how that impacts. Religious diversity, a lot of people don't think about, but all of those things impact the intersections of who we are. And then equity. Equity people interchange with equality. They're not the same. I say that equity focuses on fairness, whereas equality focuses on sameness. So right now, you being on a computer, some of you could not be in the room. Someone had to anticipate that and say, okay, this might be important information that people need to know, but if we don't have an online option, we are creating barriers that are going to prevent people from having access to the information. Equality would have just been like, well, we have something every month, the same location, the same. So therefore we're fair. We're doing the same for everyone. Whereas equity says we have to be strategic in removing barriers that prevent people from having equal access to the information. So that is what I do when it comes to our policies, our processes, and promotions, pay equity. Those are things that I'm assessing. And then inclusion, that's tied to belonging, feeling respected, heard, validated, seen in the workplace, not being afraid to share your thoughts because of retaliation. Diversity, of course, is me looking at our boards, looking at our decision-making folks who have the most authority, and so much more. And so I'm not trying to rush, but I mean, it is 11:58. But those are some of the things that I'm doing currently. And so although I'm not necessarily a traditional teacher, I'm sure you could see, even right now, even that was a teaching moment, right? That was me pulling from the educator in me. Mm-hmm. My facilitation approach to be interactive and communicative. Some of us had terrible teachers who were terrible at that, okay? That's why I wanted to be a teacher. I'm like, this is boring. I want to go to sleep. Let's have fun. Like, let's talk. I was able to be successful as a teacher. And in my role as a DEI officer, I'm meeting with politicians, elected officials, department heads, community leaders, I've got to be able to take complex things and simplify them in a way that you can digest. And so anywho, this is what I had to do to be able to help me take calculated risks. I had to be keenly aware of my foundation, the parts that make me uniquely Marisa, right? And relate those things to how I show up in the space and what type of impact I hope to make. So for any of you here, which I feel like all of us on Zoom and in this room, we've already been skilled at this. So if there's a risk, if there's clients that you're working with, maybe do this with them. Maybe have them sit down and think about what they've done in the past, what they want to do in the future, and help them connect those dots. Because that's something that will empower you. I know you're going to take this with you and say, these are some resume words, okay? These are some things you can put on your resume. It's that simple. If you're aware of who you are and your purpose, the things that fill you, the things that deplete you, the things that fill you and bring you joy, then doing something like this will be able to help you be calculated, intentional, and be willing to take the lead. And that is what helped me in my career. That's what is going to help me in my future. I really don't know where I'm going. I mean, I know my purpose though. I know what fills me. I know what doesn't. And so that can help to ensure that whatever is in my future helps me to maintain integrity and clarity around where I'm going. So I know that it is noon. I'm sorry if I didn't have, are there any remaining questions that folks may have for me? But I'm really grateful that you created this space. Sure.
Question. Is there like a policy or action that you help to change or update that has really stuck out with you and that you're pretty proud of?
Whew. Well, to be honest with you, there haven't been any policies I have updated. With a county structure that is as sophisticated as it is, the county has 22 departments and close to 2,500 employees. Some of them are seasonal, some of them are part-time, some of them are full-time, many different functions. Some of them are civil service commissions. Some of them are have state mandate commissions. Some of them there's more than 13 different unions within the county structure. So the last 10 months have been me just literally meeting people, understanding how things operate so that, and then empowering our leaders. And that's what we're going to do next year, is bring in some consultants that have expertise when it comes to law and a DEI lens and to empower them to be able to critically analyze the policies they have in place. And so that's kind of the next phase. So this first year has just been kind of assessing the land and setting the stage for us to be able to do the deep hard work. Are there any other questions? Sure.
From your perspective, if someone who's moved here out of state, is there anything that we can do as a state or the Omaha metro area that be more viable for people to come?
Oh, that's good. We were just having a conversation, different DEI practitioners throughout Omaha at the Greater Omaha Chamber, literally last week. And a lot of times when people talk about inclusivity, they think of it from a professional stance. I would say professionally, Omaha is incredibly inclusive. I mean, there hasn't been one person, whether they are running for a state legislator position or a local CEO or whatever funder, that has said no when I've asked to meet with them, right? But in order for people to want to stay here, they've got to find home. And in finding home, it's finding your people. So if we have all the events, if we have professional networking and no one has friends that they can go with, or no one has friends to talk to when the times get tough, or no one has community for their children, then they won't find home. And so I would say something that's been difficult for my husband, specifically with the men in Omaha, it's been hard for him to find friends because people are from here. They already have their friends. They don't think about extending the invitation to people into their lives, into the intimacy. And so I would say adults in Omaha need to do better at being friends. Is that simple? Ooh, I told you I don't know where the heck I'm going, girl. So I have two different things in mind. If I were to go back to nonprofit, I would want to be an ED or CEO. If I were to go for profit, which I've never done, right? I've been government now. I've done nonprofit, I've done education. If I was to do for-profit, I would want to be VP of culture and people or VP of social impact. I think that would be in alignment with my background. So we'll see. Thanks for asking that. Did that make sense when I kind of threw those out? It's like, oh, I can see that. I can see maybe the DEI officer doing those things. Are there any questions online? I want to be a good steward of your time. All right, well, people online, thank you for joining us and listening to my career path journey. I hope you got something out of it. I don't know. If anything, maybe think innovatively about how you hold space and dream again. Dream about what the possibilities are and don't limit yourself based on what you don't know, but lean into what you do. So thank you.
Once again, thank you, Marisa. Appreciate you being here. Next month, December 14th is our next speaker. Her name is Patricia Kearns, and she is from QLI. She's the president and CEO there. So it'll be kind of a healthcare focus for that. But thank you all for joining once again.